Hey everyone, I'm going to talk a little bit about deperimeterization today. That's quite a long word, right? We're going to explore what that means. It's one of those buzz terms we see in cybersecurity frequently. Kind of gets bounced around a lot, but what does it really mean? And so our plan today is to explore this a little bit and how we kind of got here. So where we're coming from is really how IT departments and businesses have built their IT infrastructure over the years. Some of you may remember networks kind of look like this. This was the old style of work, right? We used to actually go to a building. It'd be an office building that we travel to, and we'd sit in offices and cubicles, and we'd access resources and things that existed, in the building. We all went to the same place and sat there. And the reason why this is significant is because we had this whole idea of inside and outside. It was very clear where resources were and where the traffic was going to be. That was part of the organization. And then we had this boundary right here, and that's just described by this firewall. And here's the internet. So if someone was on the outside, it was really clear where they were going to be coming from. We'd spend a lot of time and attention right here on this firewall device, because it formed the boundary between the inside and the outside. And the old mindset was that if it's on the inside, then it must be okay because it's supposed to be there as part of the work environment. It's a working computer, it's an employee or what have you. And if it was on the outside, then we knew where that was. And so, not to say things were easy, but things were a little bit more clear cut. So what has happened and what started to happen not too long ago was the emergence of the public cloud. Things like Amazon, AWS, Microsoft's Azure, Google Cloud, Oracle Cloud, IBM Cloud, this idea of cloud. And the way that we use computers has changed as well. The idea of a computer is not what it was, this static thing that sat on a desk or sat underneath the desk. What happened was laptops, right? Computing platforms got more powerful and smaller. And so folks wanted to be able to access things from home. Sometimes in the IT department, we would need to access things from home because we could only work on things after hours, right? In the olden times, we'd go to the office at 8 o'clock in the morning, we worked till about 5 o'clock. Some things happened after hours, but things were pretty static, right? But that changed, and especially in IT, what would happen to us a lot of times is we would need to work on things after hours because the employees weren't there, and we had to reboot things and change things and update things and patch things. And so we'd need to be able to gain access from home instead of having to sit in the office, in the evening. And then you'd have other folks that would want to access things from home. And so what we start to see, the common element between these things, where these things exist, is through the internet, right? Work is connected to the internet. The public cloud is connected to the internet. Employees would go home and use their home internet service. And as internet speeds increased and more people got access to high-speed internet, the idea of using the internet in this way became more popular. It didn't used to be feasible that you could take some of the server workloads that were previously at work and literally move those to the public cloud provider on the internet, because the speed between here through the internet wasn't enough. It would just be too slow. Everyone would complain about speed, right? But as internet speeds increased and these resources matured, what folks started to do was realize, well, gee, I don't have to have all of this stuff running in the work site anymore. It's expensive, air conditioners and power and the equipment you have to buy. And especially if you're just getting a business started, or you're trying to grow and expand a business, having to invest in all that IT and all those resources can be a burden. And so we see the public cloud start to come into the picture. And as that service evolved and got better, the idea of moving some of the IT stuff that was on servers in the building into the cloud became more and more appealing. And then folks started to use things like tablets and phones. Hey, can I get my email on my phone? And can I access my desktop from home? Can I get to from this from home, and et cetera? And then people started to use their own equipment, and more and more of this stuff started to migrate over to the cloud. And there was like this slow migration and adaptation as we went from sort of this traditional model where everyone went to work and all the resources were at work to now where it starts to become a little bit more flexible. So this has really led to where we are today, where our work is a lot different than it has been, sometimes for good and sometimes for bad. And so what we see now, really the biggest thing is, the workplace has kind of shrunk, in sometimes it's literally gotten smaller. The facilities are smaller. But the emphasis on being at the workplace in order to use the computer has changed. Businesses are much more dependent on their computers and IT infrastructure than they ever have been. And a lot of organizations are starting to come to that realization now. Traditional businesses that have even been around for hundreds of years, they're starting to realize without the computers, they don't have a business, But the physical footprint or the emphasis on that physical location has shrunk. And in some instances, it's literally less people, smaller facilities, but there's less equipment. Generally speaking, this is what we're seeing. Some places don't have any equipment. Some people are all in moving all of their resources to the cloud. And so we see the utilization of the cloud and the resources that are there, that the business has moved there, originally moved there, but now more and more has never been anywhere else, right, in this public cloud. And the workforce there's much more of the workforce, as we see here, that doesn't have to be in the building. There may be an expectation for them to be in the building, right? We saw with COVID, lots of people got to work from home. We're starting to see those trends shift a little bit, this idea of hybrid and what have you. More and more folks are having to go, but the ability to work remotely is definitely an expectation. And we see folks using tablets and phones, laptops and desktops, right? The ubiquitous Zoom meeting. We use Zoom for school and we use Zoom for meetings and work and everything else, sometimes hanging out with our friends, right? But they're all unified by this one thing here, right? Which is the internet. But notice what's happened is, and I can move that little arrow that I put in the way, but what's happened here, our friend firewall that had such a clear role in the past, it really separated the inside from the outside. Where is the inside and the outside anymore? Where is the work environment? The employees, where are they? Well, they're kind of everywhere. And sometimes they're literally in other parts of the world, right? Well, what does a computer look like? Is it a laptop? Is it a tablet? Is it a Mac? Is it a desktop? In fact, a lot of businesses don't even buy the computer equipment that the users use anymore. A lot of them are just, hey, if you've got a nice computer, go ahead and use that. We'll give you access to it and what have you. But the significance here is this concept right here, the fact that it's everywhere, combined, it's connected by the internet. That's the one unifying theme, but everything's everywhere. That is deperimeterization. There is no boundary. There's no perimeter. There used to be a really clear perimeter between inside and outside. If it was inside, it was safe. If it was outside, it was bad. I had a sentry at the gate that would check these things, called a firewall. But now I can't do that. There is no clear inside and outside, right? The business has got stuff running here, the website, maybe human resources systems, maybe financial systems and what have you. I have employees that may or may not be on site, and they may or may not even be using equipment that I've given them. They may be using Android devices, iPhone devices, iPads, Macs, Windows, maybe some Linux, right? We've got Zoom meetings, people talking about things. The business doesn't own Zoom, right? It doesn't manage that application, doesn't manage that platform, but it's a key part of our business. The public cloud, AWS and Azure and what have you, we don't control that either. I mean, we build and configure it, but ultimately the platform and its built out and the resources there that are managed by others. And then we've got this unifying piece, which is the internet, which if anything bad is going to happen, it's going to happen on the internet. And so our approach to security has to adapt as well. And there's a term out there you've probably heard called zero trust. And the idea of zero trust really fits in this kind of scenario where there's no defined inside and outside. You can't trust any connection from anywhere because you don't necessarily know if it's an employee or trusted or not. And so you have to manage and secure these connections in ways that we haven't had to do before. In a nutshell, this really defines what it means to work in cybersecurity. The business trends and how the business evolves and how the workplace evolves is our problem, right? We don't, you know, if it was up to us, we just get everyone in the cage, lock everything down, keep it safe, right? We control over everything. I can see and control everything. But we can't do that in cyber because ultimately we're there to support the way the business works. And as the business evolves and adapts, we have to understand what that means and why they're doing that and what people are going to be doing in these new scenarios and new and unique ways to keep things safe and secure that differ from perhaps the way we did it before. Anyway, I hope that gives you a good understanding of what deperimeterization means. So it's no longer just a buzzword, and the relationship between that and zero trust is kind of important. I don't know what the future looks like, but I guarantee you it's going to look a lot different than it does today. The important thing is that we keep up to date with these things, keep ourselves trained and educated so that we can continue to add value to the business as cybersecurity professionals. Anyway, thanks for listening today, everyone. Hope to see you soon.